All right, so you've taken that step and you are officially a white belt. What is a white belt to you?
A novice just represents novice, beginner. Yeah, just now being exposed and learning the art in your first, beginning stages. Yep.
What are some tips that you would give somebody who's first starting out to make the journey a little bit easier?
To make it easier, I just don't have high expectations, man. I mean, I think expectations kind of are like the source of all disappointment, right? Anything source of frustration a lot of the times was an unmet expectation. So just don't have any. Just go in there and expect this to be a journey that like I was saying, doesn't end, right? It's since it's never going to end, that means you're not in a hurry to get to this thing that never ends. So just go show up.
And not having expectations about the training is fantastic in the results, but also nobody has an expectation for you.
Yeah.
Nobody's expecting you to be world-class or amazing because you just started. When you start getting into the higher levels, then there's kind of an expectation of what your coach expects of you and what you can do. Yeah. But, man, white belt is a glorious belt because you have no expectation on you. Just show up, train, have some fun, and the progress will happen. What technique or what concept would you say helped you the most, or what do you wish you would have known as a white belt?
I wouldn't put it on a technique. Do you remember when we did that podcast where I think it was that question. Was it specifically that question? I don't know, but it was something along the lines of, what do you wish you'd have known earlier?
Yeah.
Sooner, I think was that question. And I forgot what I said then, but right now I'm kind of feeling like it's the competitiveness part, right? Like, and I think that is similar to what I said before, which is that my goal, I wish I'd have switched my goal, right? My goal when I walked into a gym, right, was on the surface to learn jiu-jitsu, but really deep down it was to see if what I knew already with wrestling and what I already had was good enough to beat jiu-jitsu. That's what I really wanted to see. I wanted to test my skills against jiu-jitsu. So my goal was always to win. Every round, I just wanted to win with what I already knew. I was getting better by default because that's what happens when you show up, but I not nearly as fast as I could have, right? Because I was focusing on winning. So I just wish I'd have known to tone down my competition drive, right, when I'm training, tone that down a little bit. But as far as techniques and whatnot, I think there's a normal kind of progression that everybody's going to find. Some people will start out overly aggressive and tone that back, and you'll see that in their game. Yeah. That's what I did. Yeah. I started out overly aggressive, and I toned it back to where now it's not nearly nothing compared to what it used to be. And then some people do the opposite. Start out way too timid and have to turn it up, and you'll see that in their game.
I think that was me. When I first started, the reason that I started was I lived in Hawaii for 5 years, and BJ Penn was like a god out there. Whenever he would fight, the island would basically shut down like it was 10 times the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And we'd watch the fights, and I loved what was happening, but I didn't understand what was happening on the ground. You could see it, and you could see how they got to the end result, but I couldn't understand what was actually going on and the placement. So when I started jiu-jitsu, I went into it of like, I want to understand this, or I want to see what's happening more than can I win.
Right.
That was like at the back end of my brain. Right. I just wanted to understand what this was.
It's a good approach. I would suggest that approach for new people. Go in there to learn the art, to see how it works, to be fascinated by it. And then you'll have no choice. I'm sure you had no choice but to start being a little competitive when some of these big dudes were coming at you to win.
Definitely.
Right, yeah.
And doing your first jiu-jitsu competition and everything, you have to like get to those levels. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, you're just going to be a doormat for whoever is ready for those. So competition was actually really good for me because it did start opening up my shell and trying to be a little more aggressive, even though I wasn't very great at it when I first started competing. Right. I was always that guy. I was like shaking in the corner in the bullpen waiting for the match to start. I'm like, I hope he doesn't see my nerves and like what's happening because I'm over here like shaking. But after three jiu-jitsu competitions, those started mellowing out. But it took a while to get to that point.
Yeah.
So competition is tough. But yeah, you're going against another trained person. But white belts. Yeah, if I were to give a white belt, try not to get discouraged in what's happening and how quickly you're learning. Just go out and learn. Just show up, have fun, because you're going to learn the skills. You're going to learn whatever your coach is teaching you. Just follow that.
Right.
When it comes to watching technique videos online, what I tell the guys is if we covered in class that day, feel free to go home and watch videos on the technique that we covered today.
Yeah.
Because there's things that I was saying that you might have been thinking of, like, oh man, where do I put that grip? Where do I? And you missed a big part of what I was teaching. But if you go and watch the same technique that you were just drilling, you still kind of have that feeling in your body. Whereas if you go especially at white belt, if you go and watch a video of something that you've never done before and never seen before, you're going to have zero idea what's going on. And if you try it, you're going to butcher it completely. But if you go back and you look at the finer details of things that you just learned, I think you can retain a little bit. Yeah. Also on your car ride home, if you're going with a buddy or just talking about it after, if like, Definitely. Hey, what was going on with that? Some of those conversations, I've gotten the biggest jumps in my jiu-jitsu of like, hey, what was that? And don't be afraid to ask. If there's a purple belt hitting you with arm bars 10 times in a row, ask, what was that?
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Where the mistake is coming, right? Like because there's a point when he keeps locking in that arm bar. Yeah. It's probably before you realize it. So,
and you're gonna hear your coaches say, and every white belt asks this: how do I get out of the arm bar? How do I get out of this fully locked choke? And your coach is gonna say, well, don't get there. Right, that when you first start and you hear that, you're like, but I'm here. The problem is you were put into that arm bar. If you're waiting for that grip to break before you start defending or before you can defending, it's a lost cause at that point. You might be able to wiggle out, but that's not reliable at all. You want to be able to stop the steps getting to that arm bar locked out. Of course. Even here where you have your arms locked and they're prying on that arm, you messed up.
You've already, but your mistake came before. Yeah. You messed up already before, man.
So don't try to escape arm bars per se. Try not to get to the point where they're attacking that arm, right? Your defense before they get to that point is what your coach is saying.
The best metaphor in the world, it makes the most sense to everybody, is would you rather get good at breaking out of jail or not going to jail in the first place?
Right. Yeah, it's way easier not to go to jail.
It's way easier to make the right choice, not go to jail, than it is to get so good at breaking out of prison that no prison can hold you. Silly.
So keep it up. Stick to the grind. If they're looking at their next blue belt, it's been a while. They think they're there. What do you think can tip them over the edge?
I think just train, wait for the next promotions if you think you're there. Keep training, wait for the next promotions. If you don't get it, you weren't there, bro. You were wrong. You know?
That is exactly why I asked that question, because you were probably expecting an answer of like, oh, go submit the blue belts or something crazy, and that's never going to be the case.
It don't matter. You might have already submitted blue belts and you still be a white belt.
There's always a reason that you're at the belt that you're at, even if you don't see it. So have faith in your instructor and
trust your instructor, man. You might as well.
And if they do give you that blue belt, respect that they gave you that blue belt and wear that with honor. Don't say, oh, I don't deserve this. Please don't do that. You might feel that way, but don't tell your instructor that you don't deserve the blue belt, because they've taken everything into account and they know where you are. They've been doing it for years and years. They know what a blue belt looks like. And if they gave you a blue belt, you're a legit blue belt.
Yeah, but that is like, it's so normal.
Yeah.
So normal to have imposter syndrome.
It is, yeah.
Because the growth happens instantly. It's not like growing. Physically, like when we grow, like you don't notice it, right? If you live with your kid, and the other people got to come over and be like, "Oh my God, they grew!" Right? You're like, "Oh, I guess so, right?" But because but imagine
and they've grown a foot.
Yeah, but what if that kid stayed the same height and then overnight grew a foot? Then you'd notice. Then oh my God, and then they might feel awkward. They might be, "Oh my God, I'm so much taller now." Right? This feels weird, right? They have an imposter syndrome. It's because it's the way we get promoted is abruptly. It's you went from white, boom, now you're blue. Yeah. So to feel it like maybe you don't belong or whatever is very normal, man. Like I honestly, of all the belts I ever received in my life, the blue belt was and purple. Blue and purple were the only ones that I felt like like, yeah, this is what I am. As I'm getting it, I'm like, yep, I can already hang, and I proved it really, to be honest, in competition wise. Yeah. But like black belt, dude, it took me years to feel like a black belt. I felt like an imposter for a long time, right? But was I a black belt? Absolutely. Meg gave me a black belt. Yeah. You know, so yeah, like he's saying, you don't want to make it to be known that, you know, to out there that you don't feel like you deserve it or whatnot, because it could be taken the wrong way.
You would never have gone, Megaton Diaz, no, take it back. No, that's like an honor. Just accept that. Of course. If they're giving it to you, you put in the work. But imposter syndrome is real.
It's normal.
But if you're a blue belt, you're a blue belt.
Yep. And also, I wanted to touch on that. You were saying something about expectations.
Yeah.
Right? Here's the thing about expectations. Like, yes, a coach, I wouldn't want to lie to you. Right? And be like, we don't have any expectations for you. We do. But here's the thing. Like, they're not on you. Like, here's the beauty of showing up and training. We, the coaches, have an expectation of jiu-jitsu. It's like you're sitting there in the class, and jiu-jitsu is sitting next to you, and that's who we have expectations of. Yeah. I look at jiu-jitsu and say, I expect this person to be better, you know, in 6 months than they are now if they show up twice a week. And jiu-jitsu's like, I got you, no problem. Because it happened. Like, it's not on you. Like, you don't understand. Like, if you just show up, it's almost like an immersion thing. Like, if you just, you know, are around nothing but Spanish, you're going to learn Spanish. And it's not because you're such an amazing learner. I mean, I'll give you credit, whatever. But it's because that's what happens. It's a byproduct of being immersed in it. If you show up all the time to jiu-jitsu, your coaches will have an expectation that you're going to be better. And guess what? You're going to be, because it's jiu-jitsu. It's not you, man.
I tell the kids class all the time, your first obligation is to show up, right? Show up.
Yeah.
And then the second one is do the best you can.
Right.
And if you're doing those two, your stripes and your promotion and your jiu-jitsu is going to develop.
Yeah.
But what you were saying also, what came to my mind is there are people who will come in who are naturally athletic, and they will beat people with athleticism. And those people, I tell, okay, I know you're strong, I know you're athletic, I want to see you win with jiu-jitsu.
Right. No, totally.
Yeah.
Easy.
And sometimes that's hard for the bigger, stronger people, is like, but I can hold this person down, or I can manhandle this person.
That could be, that's more of a challenge if you have only low levels in your room.
Right.
Because the easiest thing to do is just be his partner.
Right.
Like, I would just be that guy's partner. Because I've had that before, bro. Like, and you have a guy who's just athleticing some
other white belts. Yeah.
Or a blue belt. Yeah. Maybe I have a blue belt
Even
getting smoked by a white belt who's just an ultra athlete kind of guy, right? And to convince that athlete, like, no, man, that's wrong to win against that guy. That's wrong. Like, that sounds so silly, and it is silly. So what you do is you say, hey, let me put you with my purple belt. Let me put you with my brown belt. Hey, and if this kid's that much of a freak, come on, let's roll. You know, slap and bump with him yourself, and then just respectably introduce him to jiu-jitsu. Let him know the truth. Right? There's a reality check that has to happen with those new athletic guys, and it's silly of us to think that they shouldn't need it. Of course they should. They're if you walk in and you athletically just beat a guy who has a colored belt on his waist, how can you not think you're a little bit maybe better than this art? Right? Like, it's understandable. That's why it's our job as the advanced guide is to slap and bump with them, let them know respectably. I'm not saying beat you with that. I'm just saying, no, just show them what jiu-jitsu really is, and then have them go, oh shit. So against that guy, I just threw his legs by.
Yeah.
What interesting. You're like locking your foot into the bend. You know, they start to notice it. Then you tell them, like, yeah, man, like, you know, you might get to blue belt and still have a heck of a time with the athletic guys. But, like, you know, like, when we continue with the expectations of each belt, you'll know at what point I expect them to be able to handle that guy. Right? Because there is a point when we expect you to be able to, but again, it's the jiu-jitsu that we have the expectation of.
And it's the jiu-jitsu that we're grading on.
It is.
When it comes to getting your blue belt, we're not going to promote you because you're athletic and you're beating the other blue belts.
No. Where that's going to help you a lot is it's going to cut your learning curve big time. So yes, you will probably get your blue belt faster.
Your athleticism will definitely amplify the effectiveness of your technique.
It will 100%, and it will get you through those beginning learning stages much quicker than everybody else, and you will hit that purple belt-ish spot where it all comes out in the wash. And now those guys that maybe were never as athletic as you are purple belts in jiu-jitsu, though, so they neutralize you.
Yeah, exactly. Right?